Hello guys, welcome back to the showroom where today we're going to be looking at a BMW X5 xDrive 30D. This is the F15 model and it's a 2017, so it's got the facelifted features. Let's have a look. Right then guys, so of course you're joining me in the BMW X5 which I've just introduced into the showroom there. If you've watched previous videos of mine, you'll know that I'm a big fan of the BMW brand. I think they're a very good quality product. I think they're very well built, they're very well put together, nothing's out of place, and it all looks very intuitive to use. This particular is the F15 BMW X5, and that model ran between 2013 right up until 2018, and in very late 2016 they did a bit of a facelift for a couple of the features, which this one being the 2017 has. One of which being the media screen just in the middle here. Obviously they've always had the Idrive system as standard in the X5s in this generation, but this is the professional widescreen one. It is also now touchscreen, as well as still controlled by the Idrive system down here. Personally, I'm a big fan of the Idrive system control because I don't like to see fingerprints and smudge marks on the screen, and I also think it's a little bit easier to use whilst driving because of course you've got these buttons which are subheadings for each individual category that you'd have. For example, if you press navigation on that one there, it's not active at the moment, and then you can press map, of which it brings you to your map on here. You've got media and telephone communications as well, so if I click onto media it'll start playing music, click onto telephone it'll show you previous calls and things like that. So just a real easy system to use with your scroll dial here, which is also touch sensitive as well. With the postcode you can literally write onto the touch sensitive pad and it'll input your postcode into the screen there. And you can also use a voice derivative as well. You've got a button on the steering wheel here which gives you like a voice command. It's quite a good system to use, although sometimes it just doesn't get where it is that you're trying to say. You know, easy enough to use the iDrive, so I'd kind of go that way as well. The F15 has also had various different engines throughout. You can get them in both petrol and diesel. The petrol ones you don't see quite so much within the UK market, but they did do a 3 litre straight six turbo petrol. They also did of course their 4.4 V8 petrol, which is a bit of a monster. And then the diesel side of things, this is the 30D. They actually did do a 2 litre, which is the 25D. I'm not sure I'd be too convinced by that, only because I think you're asking an awful lot of a 4-cylinder 2 litre turbo diesel to ferry around quite a big car with all your family and everything like that as well. And then you've also got obviously a couple of variations of the 3 litre. This is the 30D, which is a 3 litre straight six turbo diesel engine producing 258 brake horsepower. I'm mightily impressed with this engine, we'll get more into that. You've also got the 40D, which is the same engine, just tweaked on the power a little bit more, producing about 307 brake horsepower. And then you've of course got the monstrous 50D, which I imagine is quite a bit of a beast, and that produces something like 376 brake horsepower, which is, you know, ludicrous for a vehicle of this size and this stature, but you know, very exciting cars nonetheless. And I've got to say, as I say, going back to the 30D engine that I'm currently using now, I think it's plenty. I really wouldn't be hankering after a 40D or a 50D if you're getting quite good performance figures from this one, which you are. So 0 to 60 times, it's about 6.8 seconds I think it is, which is, again, for a vehicle of an SUV size, it's pretty big. I think that's very, very capable. Certainly doesn't feel sluggish at all. I've got a Range Rover, the Range Rover Sport CL494, and that's got the 3 litre SD V6, and that produces 306 brake horsepower. So you're talking 48 brake horsepower more than this, and I would honestly say I wouldn't notice that difference at all. I think this is really quite quick. You've got plenty of oomph in it if you want to overtake anything, and of course that comes down to being paired with this 8-speed gearbox too. So this is an 8-speed semi-automatic transmission, and paired with this 30D, it's brilliant. I think 8 gears is a really good, sensible number for an automatic gearbox, because of course as time goes on they're coming out with 9 speeds and 10 speeds, but I almost feel that this one's the best of the bunch. They use it across different brands as well. They actually use this across the Range Rover brand too. and I think it's very good. It's very intuitive in the sense of there's no lag. You've got the kick down on the pedal as well, and it doesn't hesitate when you come to roundabouts or junctions or anything like that. It's not deciding what gear you should be in. It already knows. So I think it's a very, very good gearbox and engine setup. You do of course have these different driving modes as well. You've got your switch down here. Starts every time in comfort. Whenever you start the vehicle, you can then press it down and it puts it into an Eco Pro mode. Comes up with a very nice display on your center screen. You've also got a little bit of a display on your center dashboard here, which tells you how economically your throttle response is, and how many miles you're actually saving on your journey via being an Eco Pro. It's something that I would use for a long motorway haul. I wouldn't necessarily use it on your day-to-day trips, only because it does dull everything down. Your throttle becomes less responsive. It's quite a clever way of doing it, but it changes your aircon system slightly. It will only activate the pump when it feels that it needs to be activated to get the desired temperatures, which of course, when you're at that temperature and the aircon pump's not running, you are saving fuel. So it is quite a clever system, but it all just dies down a little bit. It's a little bit more dumb, and then essentially when you put it back into sport mode, it does the exact opposite. Your throttle becomes more responsive. It holds you in a slightly lower gear with higher revs. Your steering becomes slightly heavier as well, and it's a real fun driving experience. And then of course you have Sport Plus, which you need to double click into, because it does everything that Sport does, but you're driving, it even tells you with limited stabilization, which essentially what that means is it limits the slipping differential on your back, or on any of your tyres being a four-wheel drive. It's essentially turning off your traction control, but not completely. It's kind of half doing the job, which means that you still have some of the stability side of things from a safety point of view, but it will allow the wheels to spin. So you do have to be careful when you choose to use that kind of function, especially since Sport Plus is already hyping everything else up. I'd almost be a little bit hesitant to go into Sport Plus unless I really knew what I was doing and I was in a place where it was really safe to do so. But you know, they are really good features in the sense that they actually do change how the vehicle drives. There's a few manufacturers' cars that I've driven where you put these into different sport modes and stuff, and it doesn't really do much. It might make the display slightly different, and it might, you know, sound a bit throatier on certain models, but it doesn't actually do much. You don't actually get that much more of a response. But on the BMW, you do, which I'm really quite pleased with. So yeah, it's plenty of power at the 30D. The xDrive system is also very, very clever, and essentially what that is BMW's four-wheel drive system. It's very, very rare to find, but they did actually do a BMW X5 that was only rear-wheel driven, and I'm not sure what the point of that would be. I mean, I know a lot of people wouldn't necessarily take these X5s off-road or anything like that, but they still give you a good driving capability on damp or wet roads or country roads or anything like that throughout the winter. So I'd always recommend getting the xDrive, and I genuinely think that this 30D engine is brilliant, and this is the first time that I've actually seen it now that this car's 5 years old. It was also one of the very few cars, or one of the very first cars rather, that started on the new tax bracket system that they did, so it no longer has the higher duty that you need to pay. So this one is actually only £165 a year to tax, and for a car that is this size, that gives you great practicality, it's good size for the entire family, you get lots of storage everywhere. £165 a year is brilliant, because it becomes a really sensible family car to have. In terms of running cost, I think fuel efficiency, it isn't so bad being the size that it is, being the 30D engine. On a longer run, you'd hope to achieve the early 40s, and around town you're probably looking at, you know, early to mid 30s, which again, given the practicality, giving everything that it gives, I think is really quite good. So to talk more about the interior features of this BMW, they come with a wealth of options, it's fair to say. They're a really comfortable drive, it's a nice quiet place to be. Everything, as mentioned previously, it's all very close by, it's all quite intuitive to use. You've got electric heated memory seats with 2 different memory functions, so should you need to share the car with someone, you've got your own functional seats on there as well. You've got your wing mirror, your window switches and your wing mirror adjustment just down here on the door card, with the electronic boot release just above that. And then you've got your automatic LED daytime running lights and xenon light switches just here above your right hand knee here. You've got this beautiful M-Sport steering wheel. They use this M-Sport steering wheel across the wide range of M-Sport BMWs they do, right the way from, you know, you've got 1 Series right through to 7 Series, you've got Z4, you've got all of the X Series, and I'm really pleased they do. It's a great steering wheel. It's not too clustered, everything's very easy to use, it's got a very nice simplistic design with the paddle shift controls behind if you've got an automatic BMW. The volume controls and the media controls are just on the right hand side here. Very easy to use cruise control on the left hand side here. To turn that on, you've just got the button at the bottom. Tells you that you turn your cruise control on your dash, you've got a green light telling you so. You knock this side dial up here, it sets the speed of whatever you've just set it to, and will carry on doing so. The second you touch your brake, it of course cancels that out, and you can press resume to pick up from where you left off. And of course to turn it off, you just press that same button again. It's a keyless start on these BMWs, so you've got your start button just here, and what I quite like about them is just literally next door to it is the start and stop button. I'm not a massive fan of it. Again, it all comes to that hesitancy when it comes to roundabouts and red lights and things. You know, sometimes you do just need to pull away, and the start and stop, that does slow that down. And a lot of people, of course, it just freaks them out in general, really, to have your vehicle shut off whilst you're halfway through your journey. So you can turn that off. There's a little light illuminating saying it's turned off, but that's the only thing telling you. There's nothing on the dash. No one likes warning lights or anything like that. You've got a very good media system within this screen here. Some people sometimes ask, does that screen retract away? It doesn't. It doesn't on any of the BMWs, but I quite like that it stays there, especially in this model. I think it kind of looks at home. But it's a very good system to use. You've got a 20GB hard drive within the iDrive system, so you can actually download music to the car. You've got your CD slot, you've got Bluetooth telephone communications and also audio streaming as well, which is really quite good. If you wanted to do it via USB, you can do that. It's all very easy to use. Again, you've got this media section on your iDrive controls. It'll even link to Spotify, which isn't Apple CarPlay on this particular model, but you can go through your Spotify, you can link it up through, you can go through your playlist and everything all through that. It's really quite easy. And what I quite like about these wider screen satellite navigations is you can do a split screen functionality. So for example, at the moment I've got the map as my main screen on the left hand side there, and then you've got my entertainment details just on the right hand side, listening to a bit of Foo Fighters, why wouldn't you? Your climate control just below on here, again very easy to use. It's dual climate, so I can set my side to be one temperature, passenger side can have their own temperature as well. They even have their own fan control on the passenger side, so if they didn't want it to be quite as powerful as I did, or vice versa, we can set that up. And direction control, of course, that's also separate too. Again, with these, in a previous video I've mentioned, but these 8 buttons here, a lot of people would presume that they're used purely for saving radio stations, but that's not really the case. You can actually save these buttons for other things, such as phone numbers. If you've got someone that you ring quite regularly, you can save their phone number, and as long as your phone's connected, it'll dial out. And what I did with my previous BMW 330d, that was the Touring, it was a beautiful car, slightly older system, but same principle. My number 8 was my home postcode, so it didn't matter where I was within the system, and it didn't matter where I was within the UK or Europe even for that matter. If I pressed number 8, it would then tell my satellite navigation to take me home, which is really quite good. And with the black panel display in the centre here giving me map directions, it's a great system to use. As mentioned, the iDrive system is very easy to use. You've got touch sensitive dial just on here too. It's very intuitive, it's very easy to go through each of the menus. All of the service history and everything on BMWs is now stored within the iDrive, and I think that's really quite good. Obviously it doesn't mean that you have to get it serviced via BMW, just so happens that this one's got a full BMW service history, and it's really pleasing to see that it's all been logged on the system. You can see exactly what it's had and when it had it. So a really good thing to have. There's plenty of storage everywhere. You've got 2 cup holders here at the front. You've got nice deep door pockets down here too. It's all within reach, it's all very easy, and you've got some really nice ambient lighting with the brushed aluminium trim in this particular one. You can even change the colour on the ambient lighting within the menu, and that's a nice feature to have as well. The only thing I would say is I wouldn't necessarily choose it over my Range Rover. As mentioned, I've got the L494 Range Rover Sport, and I think that's got a nicer finish on the inside. It's one of those vehicles, a classic example would be, is that my Range Rover went in for having new brakes and whatnot, so I thought, well, I'll use this for the day. This was my choice of car to go to. Really quite good. Really very comfortable, the nice Dakota leather seats that have got the heated function. You can do miles and miles in this car, and it would be a really comfortable car to do it in, it's fair to say. So yeah, in terms of interior comforts and in terms of everything being really close by, your electronic adjustable steering wheel and everything like that, it's all really good stuff to have. And I'm mightily impressed. Nothing's worn away, no buttons are cracked, no buttons are faded or anything like that. All really solid stuff to see. So starting with the exterior of the car, this particular one is finished in metallic titanium silver. As you can see, it's also got an M Performance kit, which gives it the front splitter and the rear splitter, and you'll just about see the side end diffusers just back there. It's also got some nice 20-inch M-Sport alloy wheels. I think it's got some really good aggressive lines running through the body. It's got a real presence on the road. And as it is the M-Sport, it's got an M-Sport bumper cutaway, of course, which gives it the honeycomb grills towards the bottom. And as BMW like to have the kidney grills on there too. Got the LED lights with the xenons. Very smart, very aggressive. Really sets the car off. Round to the rear of the car, we can see it keeps that aggressive wide body stance with these big LED rear lights. Got the M Performance kit rear diffuser down there as well. This particular one's got a tow bar. They're fantastic vehicles to tow with because, as mentioned, they've got a nice wide road position and they really hold their ground. As you can see, we've got the split tailgate, so you've got electronically operated on the top and then manually operated on the bottom. Really handy to have that split tailgate. It's got a massive boot literage at 650 litres, and we've also got the additional understorage down here as well. Very handy to have, especially like me, if you've got a border collie who likes to go in the back of cars, you can still keep things stored underneath the boot floor and give him the room that he needs. And with the seats down, the luggage capacity goes to a huge 1,870 litres. As far as SUV goes, it's pretty big, and of course you've got the estate cars competing. I think that's really quite impressive. So there we have it, guys. That is my review of the BMW X5 M-Sport. As I say, this is the F15 model. Any questions or anything like that, please leave a comment below, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks very much.